Hey, what's up? So, I'm gonna share something with you guys. Every week, I do a card reading for myself. I usually do it on Sunday or Monday. I'll draw one or two cards, just whatever comes out. And that's what I focus on for the week. So I'll contemplate on it all week long. And then before I draw, when the next week comes, before I draw my new cards, I will do a reflection. So here's my card from last week where I wrote down the meanings, like kind of the reading for myself. I taped this up on my board. You can see my little calendar over there. And I taped this up on the calendar so that way I can see it as I'm walking in and out of the garage door, because that's where I come in my house at. And in the house. And so I see it there all the time, every day. And then at the end of the week, before I draw my new cards, I will do the reflection of like, okay, what did I learn? How did this show up for me? Yada, yada, right? But what I decided I'm going to do is, because I drew the cards last week, I did my reflection, and I want to share that with you because I feel like this message can help you. So let's get into it. The deck I used was Queen of the Oracle by Stacey DeMarco. She does beautiful, beautiful work. I have 3 decks of hers. Queen of the Moon, and then I have the Elementals, and then I also have the Divine Animals. Love all 3 of those. Just saying, in case you want to check them out yourself. Anyways, so to the reading. The cards that I drew, the first card I drew was Self-Love. It's card number 6. Just really look at it. Take in your own messages, your own feelings from that. Here, breathe it in. And the second card I drew was card number 12, Boundaries. Okay, now I'm just going to read what I wrote last week about each of these, and then we'll talk about my reflections. So for self-love, I wrote, and I'm going to hold this. I wrote, bring self back into balance, nurturing yourself, taking care of yourself, putting focus on your own needs. And what I noticed just a little bit ago is how she's embracing herself. She's kind of hugging herself right here. And it's like more than superficial. It is more than taking bubble baths. It is more than just the physical. It is internal. And like I said, whenever I draw cards, I'm not looking for predictions. When I draw cards for myself, more what I look for is soul work, right? Yeah. So just saying. And then this card number 12, what I really wanted you to look at is see how she's in this bubble and how I was talking about, you know, keeping even those most beautiful parts of life out. Don't be so rigid in your boundaries that you're doing that. And so I really thought it was about, like I said, focusing on my own needs instead of putting others before me, and what I felt like, you know, not making boundaries rigid. It was creating boundaries that need to be set, but not being so rigid, right? And the other thing I wanted to share about that came to me a minute ago about making rigid boundaries is that sometimes we create boundaries from our wounded space. And what that might look like is, so-and-so had done this to me. This has happened to me so many times in relationships. Therefore, this is never going to happen again. I will never let this happen again. And what that is going to look like is you're going to make a boundary that's so rigid that if anybody even comes close to that edge of doing that thing, you're going to be like, no, and you're just going to cut it off. And that's going to come from a wounded place. Whereas when you come from an empowered place of a boundary, it's more like, I love and respect myself enough that this isn't going to happen. It's more calm. It's not from this type energy. It's from, I know what I deserve. I know what I'm worth. Therefore, I'm just not the type of person that accepts those behaviors from somebody. And yeah, that was one thing I wanted to share about that. So just pay attention when you are setting boundaries. Is it coming from that wounded place or the empowered place? And let's see here. Sorry, it's just because I'm kind of getting these little realizations in my head about things that have happened this week. Okay. So the other thing, and this comes from my reflection, was yes, this past week was about nurturing myself, tending to my needs over others, what others need from me. And the way I normally do that is paying attention to my thoughts, paying attention to my feelings. And when I'm having negative thoughts, I give myself grace for thinking negative about myself. When, or I try to, right? When I'm having feelings that are sad or I get anxious, and because they're old wounds that are coming up, again, giving myself grace. I nurture myself in both cases. I just put one hand on my heart, and I don't want to show you because I just kind of got a sports bra on. And I put one hand on my solar plexus, so I have both hands on me. And I just remind myself, I love you. I've got you. We're going to make it through this. And it's okay that you feel this way. It's okay that you're thinking this. Doesn't mean it's true. I've got you. And we're going to keep on going. And I'll sit with myself for a minute like that, kind of as a hug to myself. And I allow myself to feel it and to feel calm. And then I move on. Right? Just something. But what I realized, so I did tend to my needs. And that's really what I want you to do. Tend to your needs. Really pay attention to what it is that you need. Like, for example, going to do something with people, right? Like, oh, I committed to this lunch date. And you decide you're there, but you know what? I'm already done. We already ate. Everybody's just chit-chatting. I'm ready to go. That is your need. You're allowed to leave early before everyone else. Don't just stay because they're going to give you shit about it, you know? I know that's what happens to me a lot. I'll go to a party, you know, with my family or with friends or whatever, and then I'm like, you know, it's already 9:30 and I'm like, I'm ready to go. And, you know, and they'll be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I'm just tired, or my son's tired. I mean, which is the truth. I'm not lying about it. So I have to tend to that need for myself. And so it's those kinds of things. Make sure you are tending to what you need, not what everyone else wants and needs from you. That's the first thing. The other thing is pay attention to the stories you tell yourself. Pay attention to the stories you tell yourself. Tending to your needs, as I was just saying, is noticing when you're thinking thoughts where you're putting yourself down, where you're not believing in yourself, where you think you're unworthy or you don't deserve something, or you think you can't have something or do something. Pay attention to those thoughts. And I didn't notice this. This is from my reflection. I didn't notice this. I mean, I noticed it earlier in the week when I saw it, but when I was reflecting a little while ago, I really saw that. It's right there, and how everything is in her head. And see how the flowers are blooming? What kind of flowers are you blooming? Are they weeds? Although weeds are actually really good for you. Dandelions and all that kind of stuff that we normally call weeds. But yeah, just paying attention to your thoughts and just asking yourself, are these true? How do you know it's true? Nurturing yourself through that. Don't put yourself down for the feelings that you feel. If one thing that I really get on myself about is, how could I have stayed in a relationship for so long with someone who is the way that they are? How could I have done that to myself? You know, and that's something I'm practicing, reconciling, healing, giving myself grace on. The truth is, I didn't know what I didn't know. And, but yeah, it's those kinds of things. It's like, and I'm not necessarily even beating myself up about it, you know? It's just a question I ask myself, but it's like, it's almost like telling myself I'm stupid, right? Like, you're so dumb, you should have blah, blah, blah. You should have known, but nobody in your family liked him. Like, you should have paid attention. There was a reason, right? But anyways, besides the point. You know, it's just those kinds of things, like paying attention to your thoughts and loving yourself anyways, reminding yourself it's not necessarily true. You did the best you could in that moment. You did the best you could overall. And now you're going to learn to do better. And now you're going to keep practicing doing better. And all of that. And I almost feel like that's, so one thing about the boundaries thing is because our thoughts are really what will confine us. Our thoughts are what will twist us up. And it'll cause us to not want to accept the beautiful things as they come in because we're afraid there's some trick to it. Yeah. Yeah. So asking you guys to really think about that for yourself this week. To give yourself some self-love. Love on yourself. Anytime you notice you're not being loving to yourself, practice. You're not going to be perfect at it at first. Shit, I've been doing it for a long time. I think I started my journey back in 2008. That's when Eckhart Tolle's book came out, because I read it when it first came out. So since 2008, I've been practicing, and I'm still practicing doing this. I don't know that it ever ends, to be honest, but just practice and remind yourself you're practicing. You're getting better. What do they say, like the best players in sports, even though they're at a certain level, they're going to continue to practice? That's you. That's me. That's all of us. Remind yourself, no matter how pro you get, you still have to practice, because you never know. Not to compare yourself to anybody else. Compare yourself to your old self, to your new self. But yeah, forget that last part. Just no matter how pro you get, you still have to practice. And just practice loving yourself, giving yourself some grace. Don't confine and twist yourself up. and don't make boundaries too rigid from that wounded place. Create boundaries from an empowered place because you freaking deserve better.